Oh, let's move this towards my face. Towards my face, there we go. Right. What's up guys, my name's Joe Hamilton and welcome to my channel. If you've seen my videos before, you might have noticed that I use, or used to use, a Kemper profiling amplifier. I have recently, as of about a month and a half ago, sold it and got an Axe-FX 3. So I thought I would make a video explaining my thought process, why I switched, what I think of the Axe-FX, and which would I recommend to you. I do want to prefix this video by saying that I do think the Kemper is a killer unit, and everything in this video is just my opinion. So don't get, gear offended if I criticize the Kemper for something, and that's something you love, because we're just sharing opinions, man, It's no big deal, it's just my opinion. You go enjoy what you want, I'll enjoy what I want. Let's all have an enjoyment party at the end of the day. Firstly, why did I sell my Kemper? Well, I think I should start by saying, although everything on my channel so far has been guitar related, I don't consider myself a guitarist. My first instrument is actually drums. I started playing drums when I was about 10 or 11. I'm 26 now and I still play. I started guitar probably 9 years ago, and I've never really sat down with a guitar and practiced. The reason I started playing was because I was learning how to record music, and I wanted to be able to write music by myself and record in guitar riffs that I had thought of, and then program or write drums to it, so I could create music. That's where it all started. I consider myself just like a musician, I guess. I do a lot of one thing one day, a lot of one thing the other day, next day, another week, okay? So yeah, I've never really sat down with a tube amp and jammed out. I sit at my computer and I write music, and that's when I play my guitar. So when I bought my Kemper, which I think was about 4 years ago, it was in an effort to save money down the line and not have to buy loads and loads of tube amps to chase sounds I was after. I could just buy one unit and it would do everything I wanted. When I got it, it was a huge improvement on what I was using before. I was using, I think, the Line 6 Pod HT Pro, which was a cool unit, but pretty limited. And then I actually used those Positive Grid iPad apps for a while, which sounded better than the Pod. And then I got the Kemper, and I really loved it at the time. As I said, it was a huge improvement from what I was using, and it was really exciting. It was crazy to me that you could just go onto a website and download any amp you could think of, here or there, mostly here, and just be able to play through it. That was nuts. It is nuts, still, I think. So now, why did I choose to sell it? There's a couple reasons. The one thing the Kemper has never really excelled at, in my opinion, is its creative workflow. They've only just started now to publicly beta test their software editor or controller, whereas Line 6 and the Axe-FX have had software controllers since the beginning of time. And as someone who writes and records all their music at the PC, that was a really big no-no for me. It really sucked. It might sound kinda lame or pernickety, but having to roll over to my equipment rack and, scroll through using little buttons on a little green screen gets really arduous and boring and breaks any sort of creative role that you're having. The other thing is the Kemper had a good amount of effects, but in my opinion, they're nothing that creative or inspiring. There's a decent amount of them, but they're kind of just, for the most part, your run-of-the-mill, like reverbs, delays, pitch shifters, chorus. Whereas the Axe-FX has a monstrous list of effects, and it covers everything from, what you'd expect to things I'd never encountered before. And when you open up the list, there's like, I don't know how many, a lot of things, but then you click on one effect, and then in that, it's got loads of different models of that effect modeled, and it just blows my mind. And to get those same effects with the Kemper, you'd probably have to buy an external third-party plugin to put it onto the guitar recording in post-production, and that's just not fun for anyone. Having all these effects so easily accessible is super inspiring to me and something I find really, really fun, so it's quite important to me. Within just like a month and a half of owning the Axe effects, I've already created a bunch of sounds which I'd never really messed around with before, and I've put it into my own music, which is super exciting and really fresh. It's breeded a lot of exciting productivity in me, which, you know, you probably get that with any kind of new equipment, but the sort of sonic landscape in my music has really expanded because of getting the Axe effects. Now I want to talk about the amp list. Both the Kemper and Axe effects come with a large number of amps and presets. And the really cool thing about the Kemper is you can download profiles from pretty much any amp in the world, if you can find them. Download them, import them, and then you've got them to play through, which is awesome. But to get the good ones, you're gonna have to pay a third-party company to be able to get them, because an awesome thing about the Kemper is you can create your own profiles, which of course means people are creating them and selling them. And unless you want to buy a tube amp just to profile it, that means you have to buy them off someone else who already has the tube amp. And that's just not good for my gear acquisition syndrome or my wallet. So, the Axe effects comes with a finite number of amps. There is a lot of them, but you can't download new ones. And that may lead you to think, oh, but what if I want to get new amps? Say someone brings out a new sick amp that you really want. Yeah, you'll have to wait till Fractal update the firmware, or in an update to give you a new amp. I'm gonna sneeze, I think, at some point. And, you know, that's a fair point. But for me, the Axe effects has way more amps than I'll ever need. Way more sounds than I could ever think to use. And if you want to get really involved, the Axe effects does have a tone matching, amp matching thing, which I don't understand. But my understanding is it's something kind of like the profiling of a Kemper, but not quite, but also kind of. The next point is the Kemper profiles are a snapshot of an amp setup and setting. It doesn't capture the whole characteristic of the amp from the ground up. Whilst you can EQ it, it doesn't work as the EQ on an amp itself would. It doesn't react the same. What are you doing? And the gain doesn't react the same as a normal amp would if you go in and dial it. Whereas on the Axe effects, the amps have been modeled from the ground up. So no matter what setting you have it at, it's designed so it's gonna sound exactly like the amp. So if you get a 6160 and dial back all the gain, it's gonna sound like a 6160 with the gain dialed all the way back. But if you get a profile on a Kemper of a 6160 and take all the gain down, it probably won't sound like a 6160 with the gain down. Which means you have way more creative possibilities with the Axe effects than you do with a Kemper, really. Towards the end of owning a Kemper, I found myself increasingly using amp sims software on my computer, really for these creative possibilities. And to be honest, I did consider just selling the Kemper and solely using software. But I thought I may as well use the money I get from the Kemper and put it towards an Axe effects whilst I can. And if I don't end up using it as much as I should, I'll sell it on, you know? But since getting the Axe effects, I honestly haven't really touched any amp sim software at all. It just does everything I want in one box. It's easy and fun and creative. And that's what's really important for me. What's next on my script? I've probably had the Axe effects for about a month and a half now, as I said. So by now the sort of buyer's excitement should have worn off. And I have to say that I completely love the unit. The points that I've just been talking about have made music creation, for me, much more exciting, experimental, fluid, and easy. I'd say the sounds aren't, you know, better in any way, but for me, they're a lot easier to obtain and use. You know, chasing a sound that I've been thinking about in my head is so easy on the Axe effects because it's all contained in one unit, whereas with the Kemper, I'd have to, you know, go through loads of different websites to try and find an amp profile that would work, buy it, download it, put it onto the Kemper, only to find that it actually didn't sound like the website because, you know, obviously I'm using a different guitar, I'm playing it differently, and I've got different pickups. With the Kemper, everything is given to you in its raw form, and it's up to you to make it, you know? And for me, that's really exciting because I can go in and create those sounds that I've been thinking about. So, which would I recommend? Which would I recommend? Which would I recommend? It really depends what you're after. If you have a bunch of tube amps that you love and want to profile and take it on the road for easy moving, get a Kemper. If you aren't bothered about effects and just want like a number of really cool tube amp sounds, get a Kemper. If options scare you, because on the Axe FX there are a lot of them, get a Kemper. If you want a creative tool that will inspire and push you in new directions, get an Axe FX. If you want something you can easily integrate into your creative workflow on a PC and recording system, get an Axe FX. If you love exploring textures and spaces and weird sounds, get an Axe FX. So basically it all comes down to what you want and what you're using it for. They both sound amazing, they both sound like guitar amps, and they both look cool and shiny. So if you're trying to decide which to get, just think about what it is that you're actually going to be using it for, what you look for in a unit, why you're getting it, and just think about what you're really, really after. And of course, factor in how much you're looking to spend, because the Axe FX is more expensive than the Kemper. But for my opinion, you get way more with the Axe FX. So the price is kind of worth it in my opinion. So that's why I personally prefer the Axe FX to the Kemper, and that's why I'm going to be keeping my Axe FX, because I love it, and I've been creating all sorts of cool shit with it. But as I've said before, that's just my opinion. So I hope this has helped you if you've been trying to think about which you're looking to get. And I hope it was informative and at least a bit interesting. I'm gonna make a video soon where I just plan on sort of sitting down with the Axe FX and making all sorts of weird, crazy sounds and then showing you the best of them. So if you've liked the video, please consider liking and subscribing. And please do put down in the comments what videos you'd like to see me making. But yeah, thanks for stopping by and peace and love, y'all.